Okay, we'll be going live here in about 20 seconds, guys. Okay. I guess we're hot, huh? Okay. Good deal. Okay, well, welcome everybody to the 6th September Executive Administrative Committee meeting. 3 o'clock, we're kicking off. Let's see. I'll take the first public comment that's in the queue. I won't take the first public comment that's in the queue. Okay, do we have any committee comments before we dive into the agenda?
None.
Okay, very good. Item number 3, discussion of Bill 606-1668. This is one that keeps reappearing. We try to take it off and it comes back, but this is one that we turn to the GM, who's all omnipotent and all knowledgeable about this particular, and advises us on progress that, as last reported, there wasn't a lot of progress because the action committees that Aqua oversees, they're trying to work the variances and haven't been meeting. So Don really hasn't had much to add to this topic, but.
So I guess my report would be like, nothing has changed since the last report, as a cover for the fact that I really don't have a good report to give you.
The state did release their draft regulations.
Oh, did they?
Oh.
They did, even on the evaporative cooling. I haven't looked into it. I know Aqua is busy going through it right now.
Okay.
They did release their tool as well that I played with it. Maybe I got it right, maybe I didn't, but it looks like even without the evaporative cooling variance, we would meet the 55 gallons per person per day.
Yeah.
We wouldn't at 42, but maybe with the variance, we would be able to get there. But that was me playing around with it. I don't know if I put the right numbers in the right spot, so we'll look into it a little more.
So
But
this is their tool or guideline for outside usage?
for the indoor usage.
For indoor usage?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And they're still keeping evaporative coolers as indoor usage, but they're giving a variance for it?
Right, and they did cut down on the calculations on what you have to put into it to get the formula to apply.
And they're giving us, the district's abilities to do a sample size. So you can do 1,000 connections versus everybody has to register their coolers. So now you can take 1,000 and then multiply it out by your system size.
Okay, well, that makes it a little easier to implement.
But it's still a lot to go through. It's still-
But as I said, Aqua is currently meeting and going over these things. I haven't been in the meetings. I know Don was previously, but they're going through and discussing them to give feedback to the state, but.
But nothing on the outdoor usage yet? I know remember there would be some seminars or some meetings, Aqua were going to do some things, and all that sort of got stopped, didn't it?
Yeah, the outdoor thing hasn't been addressed yet.
Hasn't been
as far as
addressed
I
yet.
know.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll stay tuned, I guess.
So do we want to leave it here?
Well, I think we might now,
Yeah.
because we can provide an update to the rest of the board that there actually is something starting to happen here, and keep them appraised. Of course, the public might be interested as well, so.
What is the date for implementation of 2024?
I believe so.
So it's right around the corner? Not just the indoor, but indoor, the whole usage,
Right, which is a year and a half after they originally said.
which may get delayed again if they can't
At
figure out.
55, and if Ty is correct in his use of the tool, sounds like it might not be an issue that we need to worry about now, but when we go down to 42, it will.
Right, but we need to get the variance going for the
Right.
evaporative cooler for when we get to that point.
But once we get the outdoor usage, whatever that may be, there's no separating the two. It's just, we'll have a total usage per person here. Is that correct? You won't have to report to the state indoor and outdoor
Right,
usage.
right.
You'll have no way to do
And
that.
maybe that's my mistake. I thought you were talking about the commercial part.
Uh-huh.
The residential with the outdoor, yeah, that's done.
Right.
Right. So we know how much we're allocated per person, including indoor and outdoor usage.
Oh, we know the outdoor per person for residential?
For residential.
What is that? Is that the one that we've been talking about? And well, I thought it was still being evaluated.
Right, and they've done all their calculations, and I don't remember if it was 114 or 144. I can't remember.
Okay, let's see if we.
We'll pull that up and we'll have it ready. For
Let's
the next
clarify
time.
it at the meeting. I think it's important. So what you're saying is that for residential usage, the indoor and outdoor is defined. What really isn't defined yet is the swamp cooler variation. Okay, and then you have the commercial, but I always thought that was sort of the same.
I know commercial comes later as far as when the implementation date is, and there's a lot more work that goes into it because you have to polygon all of the irrigable areas and everything, so,
For commercial.
yeah, for commercial. So that's much more involved in the deadlines further down.
It's not easy however you look at it. When we report our monthly figures anyway, you basically put gallons per use per person, but don't you pull out industrial, public companies like hospitals, everything's pulled out of that, correct? Remind me again, it's been so long since I looked at it.
I don't believe we do.
It's the SAFER report.
Yeah, for the report monthly.
Yeah, it is, it's only residential.
It's only residential, so you take out the industrial, like I said, hospitals, the
yeah.
schools, and,
Just residential
And businesses.
connections and residential usage.
okay, all right.
So this might be an area where I should take an action item to actually go read this, see what the latest is, work with
Yeah.
my staff to get up to speed so that I can give you guys a better update.
Yeah, I
at the
mean, I
next
think you'd
board
be
meeting.
prepared by Monday. If not, I know
That doesn't seem too
you'll never
difficult.
you'll never catch up on all of it.
No, I
But the
think, I think
basics,
I
I
can get
think-
the big picture. I have a general understanding of what we're talking about and what the concerns are, and I think I can,
The biggest
the
thing
staff
now,
has got plenty of work to do, so I think, and I'm still learning.
I think
so
the
this
biggest
a
thing
good
now is what
to
is our
learn.
gallons per day for residential allotment? Where are we with the total for inside and out? And that, I think that would put some relief on us, I think, because we've done so well at conservation. Hopefully, we'll see that we're within those numbers or pretty close.
So,
Yeah, okay.
and I'm going to make a comment. There was a older meeting that I reviewed from a couple of years ago. And there was a gentleman that came in and commented on this, and I've heard more than one person comment on the fact that we seem to have this double regulation. So we have an allotment determined by the state on a per person in a community, and we have this allotment that's determined by basically our allocation from the groundwater authority. And it seems like a double regulatory standard, and it seems like something that we might want to try to address at a regulatory, because I'm sure, perspective, in the sense of if we were drawing water from some other user, let's say we were connected to the California system and the water we used couldn't go to LA or couldn't go to somewhere else, but we're on this sort of island of water that is our water supply. I can understand a state coming down and saying, for the water that gets shared amongst all the people in the state through these giant systems they have, it makes sense to sort of have a uniform standard for everybody. I'm not sure it makes as much sense for a place like us where we're sort of off on ourselves, or maybe a mountain community that has only a sole source of water that doesn't necessarily detract from the rest of the state. And exemptions like that are things that might make sense. It might be a little late in the game, but certainly things that would be worth looking into.
So the DWR has been approached on this topic,
Okay?
and they aren't sympathetic. So I'm not saying there's not room
Yeah.
there for us to work it, but the initial attempt,
So there were efforts to talk about these type of exemptions, and they weren't very
I
simple.
thought there was an email with Don and the DWR. How do they overlap?
I think maybe even Aqua might have been involved,
Yeah.
but, yeah, there was an exchange, and it was short of satisfactory.
Yeah.
I think it's still worth pushing on, but you're exactly right. We're getting double whammied here, and
Yeah.
But the golden ring here for us on this particular issue is that we don't get charged $10,000 a day for every day we don't comply, because that's the penalty for not complying to the state mandated water.
Yeah.
And so that's what we need to avoid is at all possible.
Okay.
okay, well, so action item assumed and
Thank you.
accepted, and then we'll leave it on the agenda so we can talk about this a bit at the next board meeting. Water Smart 5-year renewal. So what's up with that, Ty?
So our 5 initial years is coming to a close. So they did reach out and provide a couple different options. One was a 1-year, a 3-year agreement, and a 5-year more or less contract extensions.
This one?
Right, so what you have there is the 5-year, the 1 year and the 3 year still mirror the same total prices, but if you go with the 1 year, next year it could be a different, inflation hits or whatnot. So what we're recommending is going ahead and renewing for another 5 years. I don't see us replacing Water Smart with anything. I think it's a great tool, it's working great,
That's what I was gonna ask you, if if you guys, it's
Yeah.
working for you guys.
so.
Wish we had more participants.
Yeah, I wish we did too, but I like that we do have the ability to still push out alerts even if they're not signed up. As long as we have a phone number or an email address, we can still push out alerts to them.
So this tool,
We reach about 85%.
okay, so this allows us to, if we want to, break out the magnifying glass and see what's going on with each of the customers,
Yeah.
or it's doing it automatically, I
It's doing
guess.
it already, yeah.
Yeah.
And for customers getting on it themselves, where were we there? Still about the same amount?
Yeah, we're still sitting around 12%.
12%. And I think it's just a matter of people, once you get set up, it only takes a minute to go into it. And once you understand how it works and you can put the settings on it the way you want, the notifications, it's such a simple system to use. And I find it so valuable, and I think I even would if I didn't have the property I have. I was at my house. Yeah, I can see what daily usage is, what goes on. You have company, you can really take a lot of, and it doesn't take all that much time. I wish there was a way we can better get people to understand that.
Yeah, we still try it. Customer accounts does. We put it on Facebook.
Yeah.
We do everything we can, and
Short of going door to door and saying, hey, let's sit and set it up for you and show you how it works.
maybe that's next.
Yeah, that might be next. We'll look for a volunteer.
You are retired.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And it's a nice friendly shirt.
That's right. It's my Jimmy Buffett shirt.
Okay, so we'll leave that one on there.
And our recommendation as a committee will be to, I believe, to approve this, right? Because that's
Yeah,
on the agenda.
I think that's
Yeah, I
what
think so.
it's being suggested, and I agree. There may be some questions like we just had about, okay, what are we getting for it? And you might just be ready to address those, Ty, and then,
I'll make a quick comment.
Yeah.
Personal experience, had a water leak at my house about 8 or 9 years ago. It was in an area that wasn't obvious. I got a multi-thousand-dollar water bill that I had to pay. You only need to have that happen once before you go, that's a great idea.
and
That's right.
that's why I don't understand why the public is, there's only been one, and I won't mention names, but there's only been one that's come forward. It feels like their privacy is being invaded by having such a system. As a matter of fact, they asked to not even have automated
Reads,
meters
yeah.
on their house. So they got manual meters that we have to go out and look at. And of course, there's a fee for a manual, as opposed to having one that would digitize and send the signals about how much water they're using.
It's just a great system, and
Yeah.
I wish, the only complaint I ever hear about it is that the notification of the leak is about roughly 24 hours, somewhere in there. And there's not a lot you can do about that. I don't know whether they can do an instantaneous, if all of a sudden they see, well, because the flow's monitored by the hour, right?
It's by the hour, and you have to have a pattern in there before it recognizes it as a leak.
Oh, yeah, because I might water my lawn once and it shoots up here and I don't want to be notified. But maybe that's not an issue, because I do know sometimes I'll get notified, but I'll say, oh, that's because I went out and did this, or I did 5 loads of laundry instead of 2 or something. So I don't mind being notified.
Neptune gets that information every hour, but we don't send that information to WaterSmart except at midnight or whatever, so
Yeah.
they only get the information once a day, so they can't make any announcements to the customers until they get the information.
Because a lot of damage can be done with a leak in just a few hours,
Yeah.
as opposed to 20. That's the only complaint I've heard about it. But of course, then you have people say, well, I don't get notified for like 4 or 5 days. That's not true. I get notified the day after,
Right.
immediately. I don't know if there's anything we can do about that.
It's the balance act of sending information every day and then you get that versus, I didn't know about the leak until I got my bill 30 days.
Right,
down the
yeah.
road. Are we sending information over the internet every hour on the hour and then we're just, congesting the network?
And there may be some happy medium in there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think what
Who knows? I'm not saying it's just
what
something. I think-
Jason is saying has a lot of sense, because if you get 50 notifications, you eventually start ignoring them, and the one that's real, you'll miss.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, because people aren't as frugal as I am, I guess, and know what's going on.
Okay,
All right.
Assembly Bill 102, Budget Act.
Okay, so this is the $3 million that
Oh.
Senator Groves got us. This is the funding agreement between us and the state. Essentially, we need a resolution to allow us to enter into an agreement with the state. So what you'll be seeing on the board agenda is that resolution that's included. It's in here. It's in the last few pages
Of this, of the, okay.
of the packet. And then once we have that resolution, we'll be filling in this document to,
Okay.
and sending it to the state.
We have to promise our firstborn child, or what's the,
Oh, man, you know
a lot
what?
of fine
This-
print here.
There's not a whole lot, other than us actually doing the project.
Yeah.
That's about the only
Yeah,
thing
this is pretty
required.
short, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and keep records, make sure we do everything correctly and.
Did you find out if there's any limitations on what the money can be used for? I assume we're going to be using it for the pipeline at this particular point.
That is what the resolution will reflect, is the
Okay.
Inyo-Kern Northwest Transmission
Good
Pipeline
pipeline,
replacement.
okay.
Yep.
All right, so that's a moot question then, because that's where we applied for it under, if I'm not
But
mistaken.
we could buy pipe, we can pay for labor, we can
Yeah.
do.
We do the
that
whole
kind of stuff. We
project.
can basically do any of that.
Yeah.
And since you and Ty, since Ty and Jason are going to be doing the project themselves, we're going to save a lot on additional labor.
That's true.
Is that right? Yeah.
Going to the gym so I can shovel.
Yeah, yeah, you wouldn't have to go to the gym for a while.
Okay, good enough. That's,
We thought we'd recruit the directors to work, those are the retired ones.
there you
Well,
go.
that's
One's got a lot
pretty
of
heavy,
spare
that's
time.
pretty heavy work, I don't know.
Okay, draft agenda for regular board meeting. Had you a chance to look at that, Ron?
Yes, I have. There's a couple things that I believe they'll be brought up under, because everything looked fine, and of course, we have the catch-all for the GA, right, which is always there to pick up a lot of issues.
Not to stop you, but
Get a
did you recommend
recommendation?
on the last one
What's that?
for the resolution?
Oh, you need a resolution right now?
We need the recommendation.
Oh, yes.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, continue.
I thought that was, sorry, I thought you could read minds.
So back to
So,
the,
yeah, so what I was saying is based on a couple things that that have happened, and I know one of them is the response to our letter. I don't know how much of that we can discuss at the board meeting. You saw the response, right? And some things that were said at the GA meeting that I think are important to talk about. And I did mention this during the meeting last week with Chuck Griffin on water, and that is that what was said at that meeting, and it was brought up by Phil Peters, because basically what the GA is saying is we don't want to deal with wastewater. They said it's too much, we can't get the money for it, we don't even want to deal with the wastewater. That's how I heard it. So Chuck brought up, well, if you don't want to deal with it, how about if we do? Let's go back and start working on this again as a water district. And there was no one from the board said no. And basically, the direction was for him to work with Stetson. I wish Chuck would have also mentioned Stetson and the city. But I think it's time we bring that up again. That board is, I guess, giving us, there was no argument from Phil Hall either on the thing, you haven't signed that contract. Remember, we can't talk wastewater with them. It was basically that, hey, if you want to do it, go ahead and do it. So I think that somehow, that's going to be on your list, is the wastewater, is getting with Stetson and the city to see how we can progress with that. They had come up with something like, I want to say $5,500, $5,600 per acre foot. I looked at some of our old stuff that we had, and it was somewhere in between 2,500 and 3,200. I forget what it was. Our project cost was about 38 to 40 million. GA's coming up with 120 million, something, I don't know what they're doing exactly. So the point about it is, I think it's time that we get moving on that. And we may find out that it's too expensive for us to do. But keep in mind, the city has to do something with that water. It's got to be handled. Just dumping it on the ground like they're doing now and percolating it is I believe that both DWR and Lahontan both will not allow that. So basically what they're encouraging cities to do at wastewater treatment plants is treat that water and use it for either irrigation or reinjection. So I'm just saying that as a district, that I hate to say that we basically need to go back where we were 2 years ago, 3, and start this over again. But it sounded to me like we had a tacit approval from the GA. And if George, when he's in the staff meeting with him, wants to bring, I don't know if that's the time to bring it up, or he wants to talk to, maybe wants to, when he talks with Steve Johnson from Stetson, see if we're all on the same page. Because we've always felt that is water that is so important to take, and it could be anywhere from 2,000 to 2,300 acre feet of water, with the most expensive obviously being reinjection. But do we want to put that on as a separate item on the agenda, or just discuss it?
I would just bring it up while we're on the groundwater authority, because it's related.
Okay,
And we're going to be referencing the meeting where they just made mention that perhaps.
and Chuck might even bring it up as well, that they mentioned that as well. The other thing that I thought was bearing discussion too, and I don't know where we're going to head with this, is when they ask, number one is, who's going to operate this pipeline? And I think Keith Lemieux spoke up and said, well, the GA is. And that one was said. And my question there was, and maybe Renee, you know the answer is, I thought in order to do these kind of things with water source like this, you have to be a public water company. You have to have
Yeah.
licenses. And so I can't see the GA doing it unless they contract somebody to do it.
Right.
So I think that's a question that we may need answered. And the last thing is that Chuck asked, and Chuck did a really good job at that meeting. He sort of got him to say, is where he got Keith Lemieux to say that they can force the water district. Literally, we can be compelled to connect to the system. I'd like to know what that means. And I don't know if that maybe is something that is more of might be a closed session discussion.
We'll get Jim engaged on it, because I don't understand the legal premise that Lemieux is pointing to.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure there is one.
Yeah, it would be awkward for us to not hook up to it, but
Yeah, they might have.
it'd be illegal.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be illegal or they would compel us, but however, when you read the response, and George, I don't know if you saw our questions and the response when with the GA, we asked the GA a bunch of questions about the pipeline that said we need these answers before the board can make a determination if we want to get involved with hooking into our system. And they responded back to us with this letter that basically what I call, it didn't tell us anything.
Did you receive?
I did receive, I read the letter that went out.
Yeah.
I read the response. I don't know that, I'm not particularly familiar with the section you're talking about. So basically what they're saying is we have the legal authority to force you. I will tell you my experience
He
with.
didn't say that. He says, we can make it happen somehow. He didn't say we have the legal authority. He didn't go that far.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there are, yeah, that's an interesting,
But we need to be aware of that because and I think that's maybe something for closed session that we talk about and what the legalities are. And the other thing that was brought up and this was brought up at the GA meeting and in the response to this letter, so I don't have a problem talking about it, is when you read this first 2 pages or 3 pages, 2 pages of the response, it's obviously been written by Phil Hall and or Keith Lemieux. There's this first section. And this one section that talks about they make a point of talking about the water district and our urban water management plan and the Dendy report and all this kind of stuff. Now, I'm not saying we need to talk about that, but I think we need to pay very close attention to what's being said there because this is the same information that was stated at the GA meeting. When Phil,
Director Kaczynski, I wonder if we should be going into this kind of detail during this particular meeting.
I don't see where this, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this. I'm just saying this is something we need to be aware of because I think it gives us an insight as to what they're looking at the district. And so that's why I thought the Dendy report was important. It's something we need to look at. So, but it was said publicly, both at the GA meeting and on this letter, which is a public letter.
I'll let Jim know to
That might be something
into his
let's talk about it in his section as well, because it gives us an insight into where they're looking at the water district.
he hasn't shown much. I mean, normally we have 5 or 6 topics in close. He's only got 1 right now. So,
Jim?
yeah, on this draft agenda.
Yeah. I'm sure he'll hit.
We'll have to load him up.
We're going to load them up with that. But so let's, since we do have the closed session first, we can see how much this can be discussed publicly. Although my feeling is because it was said at the GA meeting, it's in this letter, these are all public letters, I don't see why anything couldn't be discussed publicly. But we'll let Jim make that call.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good to me. Any other comments on that, on the agenda?
Nope.
Okay, any calls from the public, Amber? No?
Gosh.
If I get my microphone to work. I was going to mention one thing because I talked to Jim this morning
Please.
about the water supply contingency plan.
Yes.
He might be adding that to the general manager update section.
Okay, well, I saw your response, which basically didn't sound like it was ready, and I'm okay with that as well, but
But there is a letter that needs to go out by the end of this week to the
Okay.
city and the 2 counties. He's going to be getting that to us really soon, based on what was sent out before.
What was that? I missed the
The
first.
water supply contingency
Oh, okay.
plan, the
Okay.
update, because that has to go out 60 days before,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Before the hearing, yeah.
what, I'm sorry? Water shortage, I'm sorry. It is
Shortage,
water
yeah.
shortage contingency plan.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then what he wasn't clear on, and he was going to look more into, was when that has to be supplied to the public. Because right now we have a red line version right now, and Krieger and Stewart's supposed to have their changes, if any, because we went through it in house, staff wise, by the end of this week. So, but when that has to then go to the public was what he was going to be looking into. So.
okay, so
But he wanted to give an update to the board on it
so
Monday.
we'll do that during the GM section.
Yeah, that's what he
And
said.
it'll just be an update to the staff, it's not necessarily, to the board,
Yes.
not necessarily a copy of the final document.
Not yet,
so-
no.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. And we'll get that within a week or two of the next board meeting, do you think, or do you have a rough estimate?
I don't know.
Because you know Stan will ask.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully Jim will know by then when it's required to go out.
Just
Okay.
make Stan get his the day before.
Stop.
No, I'm just kidding, you know that.
Okay, then.
I don't
Well,
see-
any other comments?
I don't see anything.
Okay. Meeting adjourned. 3:26. Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Ty. Thank you, Renee. Thank